What if your dream is so big, people laugh at you? In a quiet village nestled by the sea, there lived an old fisherman with one very strange wish. He spent his days like any other fisherman, mending his nets on the shore while children played nearby. Their laughter carried on the salty breeze. But his heart held a desire that set him apart from everyone else. He didn't just want to catch fish, he wanted to catch the moon. When he first spoke of his dream, the words hung in the air like a strange, impossible melody. The children who usually played at his feet paused their games, looked up at the sky, and then back at him, their faces full of confusion before erupting into giggles. The dream was too fantastic, too absurd for their young minds to grasp. As the story of his wish spread through the village, it became the favorite topic of conversation at the bustling morning market. The other fishermen, practical men with hands calloused from years of hauling in real, tangible fish, would shake their heads in disbelief. "Your boat is too small, old friend," one would say, clapping him on the shoulder with a pitying look. "It's a fine boat for the bay, but it can't reach the heavens." Another, a woman who sold shimmering mackerel from her stall, would sigh and add, "Your hands are too old. They've pulled in thousands of nets, but they can't hold on to a ball of light." The consensus was clear, spoken in hushed tones or loud booming jests. "Your dream is just too big." Some villagers looked at him with genuine concern, whispering amongst themselves that perhaps the sea had finally claimed his sanity. They saw him not as a dreamer, but as a man who had lost his way. Yet, their words, whether meant to be kind or cruel, fell away like water from his weathered coat. The laughter and the worried glances couldn't anchor him to the shore. For the old fisherman, the dream was not a folly, it was a calling. So each night, as the village settled into a quiet slumber and the last lanterns were extinguished, he would push his small, humble boat into the dark water. Alone, he rowed out, his silhouette a tiny speck against the vastness of the ocean, guided not by a map, but by the shimmering silver path the moon laid out just for him across the waves. It was a pilgrimage he made night after night, chasing a light that no one else believed he could ever touch. He would row until the lights of the village were just distant, twinkling stars, and the only sound was the gentle lapping of water against his wooden hull. There, under the vast, silent watch of the moon, he would begin his work. With a practiced motion honed over a lifetime, he cast his net. It flew through the cool night air in a perfect, wide arc, landing with a soft splash right over the moon's brilliant reflection on the water's surface. The net would spread, its mesh momentarily capturing the glowing, liquid silver. For a fleeting second, it looked as though he had done it, as if he held the celestial body in his grasp. He would wait, his heart a steady drum of hope, before beginning the slow, steady pull. He hauled the heavy, waterlogged net back into the boat, his old muscles straining with the effort. But every single time, the result was the same. As he lifted the net from the sea, the moon would simply disappear. The light would trickle through the gaps, slipping through his fingers as easily as water itself, leaving the net empty, save for the occasional surprised fish that had been caught in the crossfire of his grand ambition. He would release the fish back into the depths, give a small, knowing nod to the real moon high above, and prepare to cast his net once more. One evening, as he prepared his boat for its nightly journey, he noticed a small figure sitting at the very end of the pier, hugging their knees to their chest. It was a child from the village, one of the many who had laughed at his idea. The child sat in silence, watching the old man with a curious and solemn expression. As the fisherman pushed off from the shore and began to row along the familiar path of light, the child's small voice carried across the water. "Why do you keep trying?" the child called out, their voice filled with genuine confusion. "Everyone says it's impossible. You can't catch the moon in a net." The fisherman stopped rowing. He let his boat drift for a moment in the gentle current, the moonlight illuminating the deep lines etched on his face. He turned toward the small silhouette on the pier, and a soft smile spread across his lips, crinkling the corners of his eyes. He didn't shout his answer, but his voice was clear and kind, carried by the sea air. "I know I cannot catch the moon," he called back gently, "but look what I catch while I try." He rowed back to the pier, and with a gentle bump, his boat came to rest against the wooden pilings. He reached under his seat and pulled out a worn wooden box, its surface smoothed by time and sea salt. He opened the lid, revealing a trove of unexpected treasures. He beckoned the child closer and showed them the contents, which sparkled and gleamed in the moonlight. Inside were shells shaped like perfect five-pointed stars, their surfaces pearlescent and otherworldly. There were old glass bottles sealed with wax, containing messages from unknown senders lost to the sea long ago. There were dozens of pieces of sea glass green, blue, and brown, their sharp edges worn completely smooth and round by the constant tumbling of the waves, turning them into soft, glowing jewels. "These are the gifts from the dream I'm chasing," the old fisherman explained, his voice low and full of wonder. He picked up a star-shaped shell and placed it in the child's small hand. "Each night, my net comes back empty of the moon, but it brings me these. I would never have found them if I had stayed on the shore, listening to those who said my dream was too big." The child stared at the treasures, then back at the old man, a new understanding dawning in their eyes. The fisherman wasn't just chasing the moon, he was collecting the magic hidden in the journey. One night, the calm sea turned treacherous. Dark, heavy clouds rolled in from the horizon, swallowing the moon and stars. The wind began to howl, and a fierce storm descended upon the village. The waves, usually so gentle, grew into roaring mountains of black water that crashed against the shore. The villagers, awakened by the fury of the storm, gathered on the pier, their lanterns swinging wildly in the wind, casting frantic, dancing shadows. They shouted the fisherman's name into the roaring gale, their voices swallowed by the thunder. "Come back! It's too dangerous! Come back!" But their calls were lost. He was already far out in the heart of the tempest, where the sea was at its wildest, and the moon, his only guide, was hidden behind a thick, impenetrable veil of clouds. His tiny boat was tossed mercilessly, climbing the face of one massive wave only to slide into the deep trough of the next. The old man, gripping his oars with all his might, a lone figure battling the immense power of nature. The storm raged all night. As the first light of dawn broke, it passed as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind a strange, eerie calm. The villagers, who had kept a worried vigil, ran down to the shore, their hearts heavy with dread, fearing what the morning tide might have washed up. The beach was littered with the storm's debris-splintered wood, tangled seaweed, and the sad remnants of things lost to the sea. They scanned the horizon, hoping for a sign. And then, slowly, a familiar shape emerged through the thinning mist. It was his little boat, battered but intact, gliding silently toward the shore. A collective sigh of relief swept through the crowd. As he stepped onto the sand, his clothes soaked and his hair matted with salt, they noticed he was carrying something new. It wasn't a treasure from his box, nor was it a net full of moonbeams. It was a profound, unshakable calm in his eyes. He looked different, stronger, as if he had faced the storm and found a piece of its wild power within himself. The sky behind him was clearing, revealing a pale, translucent moon still visible in the daylight. The child from the pier pushed through the crowd and ran to him. "Did you catch it?" the child asked, their voice full of hope and awe. "Did you finally catch the moon?" The old fisherman looked down at the child and then up at the pale moon in the morning sky. A slow, deep smile spread across his tired face. "No," he said softly, "but I caught something better. I caught the part of myself that does not give up just because other people laugh." From that day on, things were different in the village. The laughter had stopped. The pitying looks were replaced with glances of respect. And whenever someone had a dream that seemed too big, too impossible, or too strange for the world to understand, they would look out at the old fisherman's little boat heading out to sea. And they would remember, you, Dan T., have to catch the moon to become the kind of person who reaches for it. So chase your dream anyway. Thanks for watching our story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more. See you next time.